Trade and warfare in Kievan Rus. Scandinavians from Gotland began expanding across the Baltic region and Russian rivers in the 700s. While the Vikings of Norway and Denmark from the 8th to 11th centuries are well known as raiders and settlers, Gotlander traders were both warriors and businessmen, advancing through fortified outposts. Once the local population was subdued, new settlers were brought in to establish towns and trading hubs. This cycle repeated as the Gotlanders moved east, eventually reaching the Byzantine and Islamic worlds. The Gotlanders became known as Varangians, a name likely derived from the Old Norse word var, meaning union by promise. These merchants formed mutual defense pacts and profit-sharing agreements. The Varangians grew wealthy trading slaves, furs like beaver and black fox, and swords. Arab dirhams became their currency of choice. Trade with the Muslims and Byzantines. Gotlandic merchants who settled in what is now northern Russia were called al-Rus by the Arabs. The term Rus, likely came from the Old Norse ruatsi, meaning expedition of rowing boats. Over time, these Rus blended with the native Slavs along the rivers, losing their distinct Gotlandic identity. By the late 700s, Rus traders expanded southward, establishing two major trade routes. Down the Volga to the Caspian Sea, reaching Muslim-held lands as far as Baghdad. Across the Black Sea to the Christian Byzantine Empire. Both routes passed through the Jewish Khazar kingdom, where traders paid tolls. Baghdad must have been an astonishing sight to the Rus. Between 903 and 913, the Arab writer Ibn Rushd described them, noting they had no villages, no cultivated fields, and their only occupation is trading in sable and squirrel and other skins, which they sell to those who will buy them. At the time, Baghdad was the crown jewel of the Islamic caliphates, adorned with green parks, marble palaces, promenades, and grand mosques. The Rus sought Arabic silver coins, silk, spices, wine, jewelry, glass, and books from the Byzantines. In return, they traded captured Slavs from the Eurasian steppe, along with fur, honey, wax, and timber. The silk trade stretched from Constantinople and Ray in Iran to Kiev and Novgorod, then into the Baltic, Scandinavia, and even England. Gotland's role in this network is confirmed by the vast number of Islamic silver coins discovered there, minted from silver extracted in Muslim-controlled provinces of Central Asia. Formation of Kievan Rus. In the late 9th century, Prince Oleg of the Rurikid dynasty formed a loose federation in Eastern and Northern Europe known as Kievan Rus. Oleg established Rus in 862, starting with Novgorod as his capital, about 160 kilometers south of modern-day St. Petersburg. He extended control south along the Dnieper River Valley and later moved his capital to the more strategic Kiev in today's Ukraine. At its height, Kievan Rus ruled from the White Sea in the north to the Black Sea in the south, and from the Vistula's headwaters in the west to the Taman Peninsula in the east. Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine all trace their cultural origins to Kievan Rus, which lasted for 700 years until the Mongols defeated them between 1237 and 1242. Much of what we know about Kievan Rus comes from the Russian Primary Chronicle, or Tale of Bygone Years, detailing early Slavonic history from about 850 to 1110. A monk named Nestor is believed to have compiled it in 1113 at the court of Grand Prince Sviatopolk II of Kiev, using Byzantine chronicles, Slavonic literary sources, official documents, and oral sagas. Though the original manuscript is lost, later versions exist, the earliest being the Laurentian Codex from 1377, followed by the Hypatian Codex from the 1500s. Rus attacks on the Islamic and Byzantine worlds. Although trade between the Rus, Baghdad, the Khazars, and other Muslim lands was often peaceful, there were exceptions. The Rus were known for their fearless raids on Byzantine and Muslim strongholds. These encounters are documented in the Russian Primary Chronicle and by medieval Arab chroniclers, including Ibn al-Athir, who wrote a comprehensive 11-volume world history in the 13th century. The first major attack came in 860 when about 200 Rus ships sailed down the Bosporus and struck the suburbs of Constantinople. The Greeks were caught completely off guard, and Saint Photios the Great of Constantinople described it as a thunderbolt from heaven. At the time, the city was largely undefended, as Byzantine Emperor Michael III was away battling the Abbasid Caliphate and his navy was fighting Arab pirates. After landing, the Rus rampaged through the suburbs, setting homes and churches on fire and killing residents. For unknown reasons, they withdrew after plundering the area. Another attack on Constantinople followed in 941, but it ended in disaster for the Rus. They sent a massive fleet of 1,000 ships, but the Byzantines countered with just 15 warships armed with Greek fire projectors. The fiery chemicals engulfed the Rus fleet, burning ships and soldiers alike. Those who jumped overboard to escape the flames drowned, weighed down by their armor. The Rus also carried out several raids across the Caspian Sea into Muslim territories. The largest, in 913, involved 500 Rus ships attacking the Gorgan region in present-day Iran. They plundered goods and enslaved women and children, but a coalition of enraged Khazars and Christians later ambushed and defeated them, leaving few survivors. Another major campaign occurred in 943, when a Rus armada attacked the wealthy trading city of Barda on the Caspian's southern shore. The locals fought back fiercely, throwing stones and shouting insults, but the Rus overpowered them, slaughtering 5,000 people. Arab chronicler Ibn al-Athir described the aftermath. They ordered the townspeople to leave, promising safe passage. Those who stayed were either killed or taken captive, some 10,000 souls. The survivors were gathered in the Friday mosque and told they could ransom themselves. A Christian secured freedom for some at 20 dirhams per person, but the Rus, realizing others had nothing to pay, massacred them. They looted the city, took captives, and enslaved the women. The Rus used Barda as a base for months, raiding nearby regions. Eventually, an outbreak of dysentery from tainted fruit weakened them, leaving them vulnerable. Isolated in Barda's citadel, they had no choice but to flee. Under the cover of night, they carried off as much of their plunder, treasures, gems, and finery as they could before vanishing into the darkness. Varangian Guard and the rise of Moscow. The Kievan Rus forged a strong alliance with the Byzantines in 988 when their ruler, Vladimir the Great, abandoned paganism and embraced Orthodox Christianity. He carefully weighed his options, considering the Judaism of the Khazars, the Western Christianity of Rome, and the Islam of the Arabs. In the end, he chose the faith of the Byzantines, likely because it offered the most powerful alliance. Recognized for their fearlessness, the Rus were recruited by Byzantine Emperor Basil II to defend Constantinople. Around 6,000 Rus warriors were formed into the elite Varangian Guard, an imperial unit that protected the city and served as the emperor's personal bodyguards. From that moment on, the Varangian Guard fought in nearly every major Byzantine campaign until 1204, when Crusaders sacked Constantinople. After the Mongol invasion of Europe in the early 1200s, the once mighty Kievan Rus collapsed. At the time, Moscow was little more than a trading outpost. But over time, a series of ambitious princes expanded its borders, gradually transforming it into the political and cultural center of the northern Rus lands. Moscow's location played a key role in its rise. Surrounded by dense forests, it was shielded from Mongol attacks, while nearby rivers provided trade routes connecting the Baltic and Black Seas to the Caucasus. Throughout the 1400s, Moscow steadily united the northeastern and northwestern Russian principalities, finally overthrowing Mongol rule in 1480. Ivan III, known as Ivan the Great, became the first Moscow ruler to adopt the title of Tsar, proclaiming himself the ruler of all Rus.